This is the S.J. Childs Show, hosted by S.J. Childs, streaming on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Find us on all social medias. The S.J. Childs Show, bringing value to families through education and resources. Check us out weekly, where we'll have new and exciting guests. Thanks so much for your support. Enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by S.J. Childs Books for Children. Visit sjchilds.org today to check out their special needs book collection. Teach inclusion and neurodiversity in this special 7-book collection. Get yours today. Sponsors include Blinky Minky Blankets, handmade double-sided Minky blankets, highest quality and craftsmanship, creating your perfect blanket for your loved one as a special forever gift. Code word the mouth for discount today. By Dana Ball Legal Services. Avoid common legal mistakes and protect your small business. Dana makes it affordable for your Utah small business to avoid common legal mistakes with business operations, contracts, and employees. Get more information today at danaballlaw.com. By Natalie Castro, autism real estate specialist and sensory-friendly designer. For more information, go to www.piecesofinspiration.com. Hi, and welcome to the S.J. Childs Show. I'm your host, S.J. Childs, and today I have a really great guest, Zhara Astra, who is a writer, producer, professor, and an autism expert, I'm going to call her today. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on here. And we met in strange, unconventional ways, which is, par for the course, right? Kind of a thing. Unconventional all the way. And it was just such an honor to kind of run into you, if you will, over Zoom and be able to connect like this because the message and the information that you're going to share today is so valuable. And I am just shouting it from the rooftops, if you will. So, and this is the best way I could find to give myself a louder voice, give myself, the purpose that I wanted to give to the world and educate and help others understand autism acceptance, awareness, education, and yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and kind of what got you started on this journey.
Well, I work in film and television. I'm a writer and a producer with a background in documentary films. And I would say I started down this autism journey because I have a 6-year-old son and I started to see some autistic traits in him. So I went and I got him his assessment done and I just deep dove into the research and I started to see a lot of things that sounded like myself as a child and as an adult. So I just dug into research and I was finding whatever I could on adults. And then somebody gave me a book on women on the spectrum and neurodivergent women. And I just read it and I was in tears because I finally felt validated. Like I started to gain an understanding of myself and I started to realize, okay, I think I might also be on the spectrum, which is terrifying. So
a whole new world, right? Yeah,
exactly. So I sought out a neuropsychologist here in Los Angeles. And I had a brain mapping scan done because for me, I needed to see it. I needed to see it to believe it. So I went in and I told her, I think that I'm on the spectrum. And of course, the initial response that adult women get is, yeah, I don't think so. Because why? Because you don't look like you're on the spectrum.
There's no way it could be, right?
Okay, well, I'm here and, I'm doling out the money. So
And you don't act like a 9-year-old boy. So I don't understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we did the brain scan and she called me a week later and she said, sure enough, your brain, looks like somebody's who's might be on the spectrum. You have gray matter in the areas,
wow.
That is. And so I thought, okay. And so I just went even further and I started researching. And I wanted to get an official assessment, which is very difficult to find as an adult and as an adult female. It took me about it took me over a year to find somebody who would take me and wasn't going to charge $8,000 to do it.
Yeah.
And so I went through and I finally got my official diagnosis done. And it's just been very affirming and life-changing and scary. Yeah. And it's been an emotional journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my journey in autism has been nonetheless, just very intense, very emotional, very rewarding. And it's through all of those that they come together in this beautiful vision and this beautiful look, and I try to give the world this outlook of what I see. And our son was diagnosed about a decade ago, at 16 months old. So very early. He was a bright, little baby that was reading and writing before he was talking. And it was interesting to then now here we are a decade later. And our daughter, who you just had the pleasure of meeting a few minutes ago, she was only diagnosed a month ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And so to have this idea, perception for, all of these things, and to be viewing autism for over a decade and 8 years or 9, years for her, and to not have ever recognized it. But it's been there. It's right. It's not like it just came when she turned 9 years old. It's been there. And now the same thing, I can look back and I can say, okay, like this is what this means. And these are the traits that we need to start sharing with the public. Mm-hmm. Because I'll tell you, when I thought that, my mom would be really on board. She's a medical professional. She's a nurse. Like she's going to understand it all. Whoa. Furthest from the truth. Yeah. It was really hard for her to grasp the fact that our son, had autism, and we had very limited information back then. It's still building and it's wonderful now. There's so many more programs, but there's still so much more to uncover and so much more to learn and share with others.
Yeah. I think it's a real shock for parents as well. Parents of autistic children who are just now discovering this.
Yeah.
Because I think from those older generations too, there's still this very strong stigma around autism and spectrum and different neurodivergences, even though they may not have used that terminology back then. So to discover that your adult is on the spectrum is, it's a shock. My mom has struggled as well. And I gave her this whole spiel and I said, look, I'm on the spectrum and here's why, and here's all the examples. And she was like listening. Okay. And my mom, I adore her. She's a wonderful woman, but it was really hard for her to accept. And at the end of this long conversation that we had, she goes, okay, but you're not autistic. Because she's like, I made perfect children.
Right.
My children are perfect and you're perfect and there's nothing wrong with you. And I said, okay, so you just nailed a problem that we have right now, is that we view autism as there's being something wrong with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in the description itself, it's an autism spectrum disorder.
Yes. So just break that word and toss it in the trash. Oh.
That word, I know it's different for everybody. Everyone has a different experience, but I don't personally feel like I have a disorder.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm fortunate because I'm more, I don't even like
creative. Oh, dang.
Right. But I think that I have some pretty interesting traits that have come because of it. And I have an interesting way of viewing the world. And in my work, I can read a script and I can immediately see a mistake on the page, or I can play the movie in my head from start to finish of what I'm writing. And I can see what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And
that's so cool.
I wouldn't take that back.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be a neurotypical. I'm okay.
Yeah. Oh, no, I love that. And, the same goes for, early on when I was learning about autism, and it's just, you run across all of these things. Well, if you do this, maybe, they'll have less autistic symptoms. If you do this and this, and it's just like so overwhelming as a human being to want to do the best for your child, yet being thrown all of these, like, almost like horrible, like, it's so scary around every single turn. And then you take a step back. Well, I was able to, because I see that my husband is also on the spectrum. And now I can see my daughter, and I can really step back. And as I was telling you, probably see it in myself so many ways. And now I'm like, wow, I can really work with this. Like, this is okay. I can understand my son's eating and sleeping habits based on my husband now that it's like, oh my goodness. How did I miss this before? And it just comes with an idea that you can be flexible of thinking, that you can take a look at a person as a human being, and you don't have to like have a perception of what you think they should be. You just let them be who they are.
Exactly.
It's so tricky, isn't it? Because it just like, I love what you had said in your talk that you gave at ASU, when you said that your brain is like a bunch of little tabs going at once. I always give that kind of description for DJ, and I say he's like a computer that's all the tabs are running all the time. So sometimes the actual functions of the computer are slow, and they have a hard time like keeping up because there's so many things going on at once. And I just think it's so incredible. And we wouldn't, we want to help manage and like strategize and help shape those things to be more easier for him to handle, but we certainly wouldn't want to change them.
Yeah, it's tricky though, because it is so individualized.
Yes.
So he might have some kind of sensory processing differences that somebody else might not have. So it's so tricky with autism, because the spectrum is so wide, and trying to find where you are on it and how it affects you and how you show up in the world and how you can set yourself or your children up for success. It's tricky. There's no one size fits all for diagnosis or for medication or anything else, really.
Yeah.
So it's like we're I laughed in my intro when you said that I was an autism expert, because nobody can call an autism expert, because we're learning every day.
So
and
true.
It's changing and evolving so much. And especially with women, which that's my specialty.
Yeah.
That's
specialist. There we go. We'll call you a specialist then. I love it.
Because, with females, it shows up so differently in us, which is why we go undiagnosed for most of our lives until you're an adult and you have a child who you're researching, who you think might be on the spectrum. That's how time and time again, so many women are discovering this about themselves.
Yeah, it is so true.
It's like, with boys, I have an autistic cousin who's severely autistic, lives in a home. He's nonverbal. And so I grew up with that being my example of autism. And I thought that's what it is. And then we watch movies like Rain Man and these extreme male autism portrayals.
Yes.
Right? And it doesn't account for the female experience. And even on television, when you have females who are on the spectrum, the writers, they're writing them with male traits. So it's not accurate. So we watch that and we're like, oh, okay, that's not me. And we look at people like my cousin and we say, oh, that's not me.
Yeah.
Recognizing that for women, a lot of stuff we internalize and then we put on this mask, right? Because as women and as girls, we're taught to be polite and make eye contact and give a firm handshake and don't be too weird or too quirky or too out there or too this or to that, and just kind of stay in line and don't draw too much attention to yourself, right? And be polite. And, one of the traits of autistic girls is being shy and being quiet. Now, what I think is interesting is autistic boys tend to do more stimming, or more like my son does he does the humming when class is too loud or something like that. And with us, we tend to be more quiet, and our head is just spinning super rapidly inside of us. And so we are not a behavioral problem for the classroom.
Yeah.
So they're not going to diagnose this quiet, shy girl who's polite, because that's not an issue. She's not disrupting the class. She's not causing any problems. So we're going to overlook her entirely, and we're going to give attention to the boy who is being disruptive and loud and stemming and doing things that are bothersome to other people. And it's just,
and punish, right? Punish. See what kind of punishments work.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Now, like I look back, it's like some people say that they have gaydar, right? And they can see these things. I can see this with autistic girls.
So much. I mean, if I could have told you way long ago that Elon Musk was on the spectrum. Okay. And like all these people, and I'm just like, I see you out there in society. Yeah. 100%.
And girls oftentimes they relate more to animals. So you have horse girls, the pony girls that want to dress like cats and they want to kind of embody this animal character, because animals are more dependable and they can understand them more than they can humans. So they relate to them more. So you see the little girl in class who's just kind of weird, kind of shy, kind of keeping to herself, wearing cat ears, and there's a good chance that she's on the spectrum.
Yeah, 100%. No, I completely agree with that. And I wish that I would have seen, and it's funny that you say that about the, being shy little girl, because then I look at my daughter and I think, okay, she's like that in public and she was like that in school, but at home, no, she's the boss at home. And she's also so emotionally intelligent. Oh my goodness. That is what I think possibly one of the signs may be. When she was like 1 or 2, she was speaking before her brother. And I remember her kind of speaking in the same riddle language that her brother did, but I didn't notice. I didn't recognize it, that it was the same, little riddles that she was saying and speaking to me. And it's so funny that we could just overlook those things, exactly like you're saying, because she's not spinning. She's not flapping her arms. She's just trying on everybody's shoes every single second she sees a shoe. And, like always dressing up and talking to everyone. And I swear when she was 5, I was like, are you like 60? Are you going on like your 60th birthday? She liked to sew and make doll clothes. And I mean, she just blows me away with her, like over, like she's beyond her years, beyond. And now that I can see it for what it truly is, it's just like, it's so amazing. I'm so lucky to have these beautiful humans to, gain all of this intelligence and information and knowledge and be able to share it with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Your daughter sounds a lot like I was at because very, very, quiet and I'd say more shy, but also in a home setting, I was very, very bossy, and I didn't go and seek out friends. They always adopted me.
Yes.
And I say, God bless Christina, my best friend since we were 4 years old. She adopted me and she didn't leave my side. And I was the boss, and we have to play in my way, because also with autistic girls, there's this kind of controlling
structure control or something. Yeah.
We have to play how I want to play, and we have to do it this way because this is the right way to do it. Because for me, it's about being efficient, and it's about being logical and doing things that make sense. And playing in this way doesn't make sense, and it doesn't add value to my life. Why would I do that? So I'm going to control the way that we play because this is what makes sense.
Oh my gosh. It's so true. Oh, and there was this other thing that I totally thought of when I was listening to you talk to, and you were talking about, being like a little, like, I wouldn't say, I mean, less emotional, but just not being able to show emotions as much, or not even being interested to show emotions as much, rather. And I think that is so true with her too. And so it's funny because I'm just, like Scott, like super over the top, emotional and highly sensitive. And so
there was a time where we were going in the grocery store, and I have written children's books, and one of the we saw one of our teachers at the grocery store, and they said, "Oh, we'd love to have you come to the classroom and read the books." And I was just so overwhelmed and so excited. I was crying in the grocery store, and we walked away, and she said, "Keep it together. You can cry at home." And I mean, I was like, they go, she calls me out. It made me laugh so much. And isn't it great when we can now laugh at those things, look back and just really laugh about that?
I think that that's a really good lesson here, because as you mentioned, you can be on the spectrum and you can be very emotional and very in touch with that. And then you can be on the other end. So typically they consider if you're unemotional, that's one of the traits, or you're lacking empathy.
Yeah.
I'd say I was on that end when it came with humans, because I didn't understand people. I didn't understand why people got upset. Feeling. Why are you so upset about this? But with animals, oh my gosh, if I see an animal that's locked in a car, I will cry and I will call the cops. And I will defend the people that can't defend themselves. I will stand up for the underdogs and for animals.
Yeah.
It's just people. I could never understood why they feel and how they feel so deeply, because that just wasn't me.
Yeah. And how do you find that affects your relationship now that you have that opposite? I mean, that's kind of what my husband and I talked about afterwards, was that must be what's needed.
Well, I mean, relationships have always been tricky for me because I've been more of a loner. I require a lot of, I like social situations, but I like a lot of alone time. I have to have my container. I have to have my space with my colors.
I love it.
Smells. I'm very sensitive.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Smells. I can burn Nag Champa, and that's the only incense that I can smell, or I get a headache. I can't handle perfumes. I can't handle a lot of people's natural smells and pheromones and things. I'm just it's just too intense for me. So, relationships have always been a bit of a struggle, because the partner needs to know that I require alone time. Now, before I was diagnosed, you can imagine that didn't come off too well, because I didn't understand this about myself. I didn't know I was on the spectrum. They didn't know that. So I just seemed kind of distant and detached. So I think that's why it's so important for us to understand ourselves, so we can communicate this in relationships and partnerships and friendships, work environment, whatever it may be. This is what I need to best operate. I need this music, which I'm going to play over and over because that's a comfort. I need this food, which I'm going to eat over and over the same thing because that's a comfort. And I'm going to have this smell and this lighting and these colors.
Yeah.
And that's that.
It's so funny. I was just thinking of, I was going through grocery things, and my husband says, "Why do you always order all the same things?" And that's just it, right? You just get in this habit of, well, all of these things work. They all work. They're all something I can go to, and it's my go-to. Like, it's never a problem. It's always there, right? I could always have a bagel. But yeah, it's so funny because when we start to really recognize these things and be able to be okay with them and be able to give, like you said, kind of directions to our families to help support us, which then makes us better for them. I think it's so important. And what do you think now that you have a diagnosis and in your work situations, do you disclose to them as well?
I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's part of me wants people to know who I am and to meet me and to work with me and to see me as a human being before they find that out about me. I don't want to just come in and be like, "Hey, I'm autistic and ADHD and have OCD tendencies," and, because yes, I'm a pain in the ass, but I don't want you to know that immediately.
And that's funny, because my husband's like, "Make sure they know I have autism so they don't think that I don't like them on purpose."
Exactly. I mean, at the same time, I think it's good when people know, because like, one of the things that's been pointed out is I have a tendency of just getting up and walking away from the table or conversations. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, this conversation is over. This box is closed. Now I'm going to move on. Or now I'm going to go and find somewhere quiet to be by myself to recharge. So I guess if people would know that, then I wouldn't seem rude, because sometimes autistic women seem rude when we don't mean to. Sometimes we're just in our heads and we're thinking about a million other things, and so we may seem kind of disengaged. And
So true.
Like it's not you. It's I'm in my head right now. I'm thinking about stuff.
Oh, that is so true. What do you think about? And we had kind of touched on, it's such a fine line and labels and those kinds of things. I think it's so important to, number one, have the diagnosis, get the support, and to also, when appropriate, be able to share with neighbors when you're trick-or-treating. Yeah, my son does have autism. Please give him patience. Like, I put a sticker on DJ's costume one year that said, I have autism, please be patient, because every other year beforehand, he wanted to go in their house. He wanted to ask them how old they were. They were just like, take the candy. You know what I mean? They're all freaked out. And so I was just like, enough is enough. Like, a little bit of knowledge turns fear into understanding. And that's what I was able to provide those things for them. Now, there's, like I said, there's a fine line, because a lot of adults and parents, they don't want to label their child per se, especially put an actual label on their child, right? But for some situations, I think that it worked amazing. That trick-or-treating was fantastic. They took time, they got down to his level, they answered his questions, which is his most important thing. And it wasn't about the candy, it was just about the experience with him. And so I think it's so important to just be, to have the right perception, to be really, considerate of not only your neighbors and your friends and things and their understanding of what it is, and not be kind of like expect them to know, because I kind of do. Like, it's been a long time. It's been 10 years. I expect you to know some things, but at the same time, sometimes they're just not ready. Like, they're not mentally ready. They're not at a place where they can see it for themselves in the right light.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that we need to be destigmatizing this so that we are comfortable with coming in and saying, this is what's going on. I tell my child's teachers at the beginning of the year, look, my child is on the spectrum. He's, technically high functioning. He might get overwhelmed and get upset when people are too loud, but he's cool. Just be mindful of this.
Yeah.
And I would love to walk into a job interview and say, okay, I am autistic with ADHD, and I need movement, and I need a corner to myself, and I need this, and I need that, and I need a standing desk. And if you give me these things, here's what I can deliver.
Yes.
I have attention to detail, and I have extreme focus, and I get stuff done. And here's what I can do for you if you give me these tools. I would love to be able to do that. But I also feel with where we are right now, societally speaking, that might just seem like, in my mind, oh, that's too much work, right? That's too much work. So I do think we need to break that down. I also feel like, because the autism spectrum is so big, and autism is this huge umbrella term for so much. Like, we got rid of Asperger's now.
Right.
So technically I would have Asperger's, but we're not allowed.
My husband, exactly. I say it all the time. But yeah, you're right.
So because of that, it's confusing for people when they see somebody like me or somebody like you, and then somebody like my cousin who's super low functioning and lives in a home, because how can that possibly be the same thing?
Right.
And I know this is going to be controversial, because I'm not a doctor. Who the hell am I to say this? But I feel like women and female identifying humans need their own definition. And I've thought this whole thing out. Because I thought, my mom is struggling with calling me autistic. A lot of people are struggling with calling me autistic. because I don't fit in the idea of what they think that it is and what, society has showed us so far and what the media has showed us. So I thought about this and said, okay, what would be a definition for female autism that I think would be more fitting for us? And I thought of, I'm going to get so much shit for this.
I'm so excited.
Rara Ava syndrome. Okay. Rara Ava means rare bird or a unique, special human.
Okay. I love that.
So I'm like, okay, so if we just, whether you call it Asperger's or whatever the other term is, I just feel like there needs to be something differentiating that it's just too broad.
Yes, agreed. No, that is so true. I agree. It's like saying that you want to be blonde, but you have a certain idea of what color that is, but nobody else in the world could match it because you're the only one that knows. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's too hard. It's too hard to choose. So yeah, that is so true. I love that. Tell us, do you have some projects that you're working on and things? What do you have coming on up?
Oh gosh. Well, because I do have ADHD, I have about
50 of them. Yeah, me too.
Exactly. But will I ever finish them?
But you're great at starting them, and that's important.
Yeah, that's funny. Bad ADHD joke, but kind of true. No, I have a handful of projects right now. When I did my assessment, actually, the psychologist I was working with said, you picked the best profession for yourself because you can do so many things and you can move on and constantly be excited and write on this and do this. So right now, one of the, I think, most exciting and relevant projects I'm working on related to this is I'm doing a 5-part docuseries on neurodivergent women.
I love it.
So I have some of the leading experts in the world, some really exciting guests, and we're going to be diving into how autism shows up in women and girls, and how we're treated. We're going to go into the pharmaceutical side of it.
Good.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation right there, because it's not a one size fits all treatment for any of these things. And we're seeing that things show up differently in women and we process everything differently. So so this is one of my most exciting projects that I'm working on.
Oh, I love that. I cannot wait to see that. I can't wait. That is so exciting. And I can't imagine how much we're going to learn.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm working on some other, I'm producing the new Butch Cassidy television series.
Oh, cool.
And I'm doing these really amazing projects, but a docuseries on neurodivergent women feels like the most important work I've done in my life so far.
I love that.
It's going to help so many people, and it's going to change things. I strongly believe that. They'll be entertained by Butch Cassidy. They'll be entertained by these other projects, but
their lives will change by this.
Meaningful. I want somebody in the Midwest or wherever else to watch this and say, wow, I feel understood. I feel heard. This is my child. I've struggled with this. I've struggled with that. I want them to gain some kind of understanding of themselves or their loved ones.
I have chills. I'm so excited. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm just so honored to have you here and to be able to discuss all of this. And I know that, listeners and viewers are really going to have connected and been able to, especially some of my females that I know are feeling this way too, that will really be able to just say, yes, this is it. This is exactly how I was feeling, and how I kind of felt not a part of something, but it's so nice. The autism community, it's like a secret club you never knew you could be a part of until you're a part of it. And then it's so much love and so much acceptance. I certainly have just found so many families that have, I've been able to serve. And when that happens, when you're able to just give families resources or, help them in any way, it's so rewarding. Oh my gosh. I love it.
And it starts with understanding. It starts with diagnosing. Something super alarming I discovered was that autistic women are 3 to 4 times more likely to try to commit suicide. So we're going through our day, and we're struggling, and we're masking, and we're putting on a smile, and we're going to work, and we're just trying to knock out the 1,000 things that we have to do. And we come home and we're exhausted and confused and don't understand why we feel the way we do. Why are we depressed? Why am I anxious all the time? Anxiety is a big female trait there. And so, it's shocking. It's shocking to see, though, that's what they're turning to, just because they don't understand. So it's like, if we could start with the diagnosis, right?
Yep.
Start with understanding ourselves and
helping our kids understand their feelings.
Exactly. And one of the other things I discovered, which I'm still diving into the research on this a bit, but transgender people, okay?
Yeah.
The transgender community, they are, I believe it was 25% of transgender people are autistic.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. Non-binary as well, because I was curious about this. Okay, transgender people are more likely to be on the spectrum. What about, what do we know about non-binary specific individuals?
Not enough, right?
Well, it turns out that oftentimes this is a trait of autism, is that we tend to be androgynous, or not necessarily relate to our biological gender, which I think that's huge. I can't imagine being, having these kind of gender divergences and trying to figure out myself, and then,
oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
Autistic on top of that. Yeah. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And courageous, right? Courageous, brave. And I wish the world would just give people grace the way they deserved, because they were humans, because they, we're all here because we're so diverse. It's not the other way around.
Exactly. And with, we know that a lot of the research on this stuff has been done on young white cis males.
Yes.
Historically speaking. So it's a very limited scope, and that's why women are not diagnosed as much, or transgender community aren't diagnosed so much, because it's all done on this specific type of white cis male, right? So it's like, if we open that up a bit, then we can start to see a bigger picture. And with that, they've discovered, I think originally they said about 5% of 5% of people are on the autism spectrum. Well, they're now seeing, I saw a study out of the UK that they think that 30 to 40% of the people are not autistic, but neurodivergent.
Yeah.
Now, if we're creeping up to the 50% mark, then, I mean, that's
right.
That's
well, and I was
right?
And I was just going to say, the CDC just came out with 1 in 44 in the US. So if that, just once again, let's go back to this, looking at it in a boys, and we're not even including, what does that really say? If half of the population is also women, then, and we haven't included them in this 1 in 44, numbers and pattern, I'm afraid to tell you that it's probably more in the 20s, or something. It's probably half of that number as well. Just like you said, it's probably closer to 30 to 50% of our population is neurodivergent. And the more we are excited and accepting and use that to our strengths and our advantages, the further we'll become. The more we butt heads and go against it and try to stay back in the, 70s and whatever other, ideas we're working off of, it's not going to work. We need to take it up, flip it upside down, shake it, let everything loose, let all the dust balls fly off and fix it.
We're making huge progress, though. People like you who are having podcasts, who are opening up the dialogue about this. This is huge. These women that are writing books on this now about their experience. We're starting to do more research, making films on it, making information accessible
Yes.
And just opening up the
That's so great. I love that you're doing this because once again, there are, one or two books you can get about, being a woman, but there's no films, there's no ways. I can't Google right now, like some amazing, except for when this interview comes out, of course, but otherwise, it's just so hard to gain a good perspective unless you're lucky like us and live through it. So
exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, where can we go to find the docu-series when it comes out? Should I wait and promote, something for that? I don't know what you could say about it, so I don't want to be too pushy.
Well, I'm not sure what network it'll be on at this point.
Good.
So
it'll be, that's all that matters, huh?
It'll have a home. Yeah. It'll get out there.
Love it.
Important stuff, and important stuff makes its way into people's homes. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for coming today. It was so much fun to talk to you. And I'm sure that we'll stay in touch so that we can catch up and find out what's, when it's coming and what's going on. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
S.J. Childs Show, hosted by S.J. Childs, streaming on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Find us on all social medias. The S.J. Childs Show, bringing value to families through education and resources. Check us out weekly, where we'll have new and exciting guests. Thanks so much for your support. Enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by S.J. Childs Books for Children. Visit sjchilds.org today to check out their special needs book collection. Teach inclusion and neurodiversity in this special 7-book collection. Get yours today.
Sponsors include Blinky Minky Blankets, handmade double-sided Minky blankets, highest quality and craftsmanship, creating your perfect blanket for your loved one as a special forever gift. Code word the mouth for discount today. By Dana Ball Legal Services. Avoid common legal mistakes and protect your small business. Dana makes it affordable for your Utah small business to avoid common legal mistakes with business operations, contracts, and employees. Get more information today at danaballlaw.com. By Natalie Castro, autism real estate specialist and sensory-friendly designer. For more information, go to www.piecesofinspiration.com.